Every 4 months, the path to the mermaid tribe off the coast of Briniki will be revealed. That night, the tide will go down and 2 full moons will overlap. However, since the mermaid tribe was revealed by Euphemina, many players have pioneered new paths. The Kingdom of Silent Abysses can now become an open land that can be visited at any time. The man is standing in front of the beach. It was indeed a large whirlpool, and it was heading towards the lab coast. Was it really here? The other guy saw that he was hesitating and replied, if the information that had been released was true, then he would definitely see the mermaids immediately after jumping down. He felt anxious no matter how he looked at it, it was 100% a whirlpool. I heard a lot of people don't like me since I joined the Luxury Goods Club, are you trying to assassinate me? Hearing that, the man replied, you live on an island and now you're afraid of the sea. Aren't you ashamed? Hearing him say that, the other guy got angry, there are only mountains in Jichen, right? Look at yourself, your neck is shrinking, it's almost touching your belly button. The two of them got back to the point, we were sent here to fight, stop arguing. The angry man rushed to grab the other guy's collar, stupid, the other guy wouldn't give up, what did you say? While they were arguing, another guy rushed between them, let's try it first, what's the big deal? Regis, this is Grid's order, don't go alone like that. Having to face such an army like that and still hesitate, it's really chaotic, that's what a group uses high-end equipment. Tan Nin next to him heard him speak and thought to himself, this group really does whatever they want, thinking about it is really annoying, but since it's come to this, then there's no choice. Over here, a man was stabbing someone with a long spear, the one being stabbed laughed loudly, ha ha ha, you're good, but how long can you endure it? He refused to give up and shouted, Payon, sorry, but I'm going first, and disaster will befall you bunch of trashy stray dogs. The other guy sneered, Egu, thanks. I'll take on any disaster, now let me take out your heart. Suddenly he was attacked by a sword and was thrown far away. He couldn't help but be stunned, what was this sudden attack? All green, almost thought my eyes were really damaged, the color of blood is so beautiful. Warrior's blood. The man used his move, the other guy was still surprised, why did you suddenly appear here? The man replied frankly, is this your house? Do you know me? More importantly, who are you? He thought to himself, a country bumpkin suddenly attacked me without even knowing who I was? So I guess you came here after hearing that you could make money from the hearts of the water tribe. So we have the same goal, just take as much as you can and leave. The sword wielder who had just given him a slash leisurely replied. Ha, you probably haven't heard of my reputation, you think someone like me needs to make money from that kind of shit? The man who was freed from the siege began to wonder. Wait, why are you here? He replied, I am on the side of the water tribe and am Grid's right-hand man. The man was stunned, what did he mean, he was from the elite club, when did they join this battle? How did he know about our invasion? How did that brat Bai Yao handle this? The man who called himself Grid's right hand shouted loudly. Is that expression not welcoming me? You have already caused a lot of bloodshed here, so you must pay the price. You're good too. The man saw that the situation was not good. Attacking using flesh and blood along with skills related to the bloodline. This is their battlefield. There is no way I can defend against it. Several players have died. Players Ascent, Kenan, Bark, Ismus. The man laughed loudly. Don't leave any blood, vomit it all out. You're only skin and bones? His teacher was so hysterical that the man frowned worriedly. Just how cruel were these beasts? They were truly monsters. Prince, Payon, get out of the way. Kiki, that big brat looks so grateful he can't move, the people outside laughed and said. He must be touched that we used him as a shield instead of killing him. The man shouted loudly, Yang Myong, please stop, there is no reason for you to do this. Your fellow civilians are all dying. The man with platinum hair sneered, how pathetic, so many of you died that your flesh is scattered all over the battlefield. If you want to be butchered along with the others, we can fulfill your wish. Hearing that, the man rushed over, shut up, you devil. A woman suddenly appeared, Kiki, that's right, thinking must be gentle to move gently. A bunch of ordinary lives have died, don't get angry because of that, it's their fate. The platinum-haired man was charging towards the fight, sending the man flying away. My attack with its terrifying power is completely due to the pressure difference underwater, you cannot block it. The flowers of the mermaid race that have been protected for thousands of years will be completely destroyed. The white-haired guy's eyes widened, what's wrong, why are you frowning like that? Don't you like my kiss? Smile. Helpless man, the strongest warrior of the water tribe, am I so helpless? Is a normal punch this powerful? You are a warrior who knows how to use your abilities properly. Most of the people had wounds on their backs, they were almost unable to fight back. It is said that the people here live very peacefully. The man was surprised, why did he do this? The woman raised her fist. What are you saying, you weakling? Don't hang around in front of me anymore. Watch out or I'll tear you to pieces right now. The white-haired man was extremely pleased. Your fists are like made of grass. A sigh, Regis and Katz really ran off on their own. Where the hell are they? The man beside him replied, that wasn't a problem now. There were about 1,000 invaders and among them were about a few dozen players with third-tier advancement jobs, and they weren't even mediocre, they were combat-specialized jobs. They are attacking from many directions, must quickly support from the 13th area. The person next to him shouted, wait, I see Regis, in the center. Everyone was surprised. Regis was pushed back. Who was that girl? Isn't this too serious? He's arguably second only to Grid and Kraugel in the current rankings. Pan thinks there is still a monster in the world that is as strong as Kraugel. Regis pursues the ultimate martial arts. Wouldn't that be an extremely interesting prey for both you and me? The man grabbed Pan's cloak. Patience, Pond, our top priority right now is to reduce the damage to the water tribe. Too many people have died already. The guy beside him agreed, yes, the current mission is to save the water tribe until Lowell's reinforcements arrive. Let Regis tie up that monster. We have to divide the tasks and try to rescue them. Pond swung his spear. He still fought hard. Damn it, it's been a long time since I've seen a monster with the power to make my blood boil. I know, damn it. It's too much if you eat it alone. Let me help you with just one bite, Regis. Electronic spear, Pond's bait sent the white demon flying far away. The man on the ground breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, thanks, Pond. Geez, I thought you would be angry because I butted in, but it looks like you're struggling. Pond, why are the high-end users here? Attack them quickly. As expected, there's no time to rest. Let's get started. Our future wife is more beautiful than Yura. Sword drawn. The man threw a spear. Get out of the way. I had to give up important things to come here. Die. He thought to himself, the tournament had not been over for long and now someone as strong as Kraugel had appeared. In a place that looks like a royal kingdom of luxury and white. The old game room took 0.3 seconds to transmit the player's brainwaves to the server and perform the movements, even though it was only a moment but there was a delay. It's obvious in reality, but after using the tournament's A-class game room and the diamond game room, I realized it. With almost zero latency, you can move at the same time as you think. That means the base skill including everything like stats and skills has evolved to a new level. The man thought to himself that he and Irene had better sex. Of course the benefits of this development would vary depending on the user. While I was thinking, the system appeared. I was shocked, I was busy moving house. What to do? Lowell said, the mermaid invasion was predicted to happen a month later and has only just begun. The advance team has already arrived and confirmed. We set off first so we will arrive soon. Grid, you should also set off quickly. Grid deduced after hearing this, the mermaid tribe, Euphemina, she came there for the mission of providing the tears of the water tribe king, right? Lowell said, and Grid, there is a super master there that can be compared to Kraugel, who is also the player who has approached the closest to the peak of this game. Judging by the quality and quantity of the unofficial rankings, it seems to be the Blood Moon state. I've sent information about a new entrance forming to the south. It should take you less time to fly there. Lowell is right, we are doing this to help Euphemina with her mission since she has contributed a lot to rebuild Raidan, but being the benefactor of the water tribe can also bring you benefits in negotiating an alliance later. Hurry up. Lowell thought to himself, since this was an invasion by a group of players, they had set off first with an appropriate number of expeditionary troops. It was a war of such scale that it was equivalent to our entire force, so I had to bring all the guild members there to help. There are even star-level players, just that person alone makes a difference. Lowell told them, we're almost at the shore, hurry up, we have to buy time. Huh, I thought you were the only one who knew how to keep up with the war situation. You have to do it well later. Lowell was worried, the water tribe could collapse at any moment before Grid arrived. I wanted to see Irene and Lord, but I just entered and had to go put out the war, Grid said, well everyone is in danger too. Lord, it cried, Father. Grid's bright eyes flashed as he saw Lord, igniting it. Even though the satisfy time is much faster than reality, but I haven't seen you for a few months and you're already walking. The boy laughed, you're already 2 years old and it's so ticklish. Grid hugged the baby and thought, thanks to this game he could feel both Irene's body scent and warmth, his happiness was still intact. Grid rubbed Lord's head. Lord was very worried because Father was very busy these days. I can also make a knife, can I help? Grid didn't have time to think before looking at the door. It was Rebecca's candidate nuns. Lord pointed, that father and sister were happy, Lord's first love. This lady is Lord's second lover, Arna. This lady is Lord's third lover, Wina. This lady is Lord's 20th lover, Type. Grid wanted to get angry after hearing that. This kid is only 2 years old but has 21 lovers. Grid pinched Lord's cheek. He was a friend. If he had 20 lovers, his mouth would probably tear because of the kissing feature. Come on, Lord. Styx also taught these tricks. But my son is a genius, how could he not know these things? Just because of Grid's statement that he wanted them to help Lord had a whole harem. There are 200 nun candidates, so he has 200 lovers. Grid secretly blamed himself. He met Irene at 30 and struggled to get married. Grid had no choice but to thank Happy. Lord will also rely on her in the future. Grid said and flew away. Father has some business to attend to. You guys have a good date. Over here a man is grinding his teeth. Duke Grid, he has completely changed from a few months ago. Doran, I understand why you gave the ring to that person. His superior ability to see through predestined people, his success is still there. He thought to himself, these new enemies are powerful, he must confront and overcome them. The knights had to train in the fields again, so everyone was whispering. It was morning at the training ground and afternoon in the fields again. Now I don't know if I'm a knight or a farmer. I'm sick of rainbow potatoes, too. The knights were talking to each other. But if you were stronger, you'd save your life on the battlefield. Don't say that in front of Bland. That potato addict would definitely kill you. Asmafel smiled when he heard that. Then he walked over to where Piero was working. Piero saw him and greeted him. You're here. You've been training hard, huh? The captain of the knights uses high-end equipment, Asmafel said excitedly. It's hard to see him these days. I wonder if he's taking good care of his health. Unexpectedly, Grid appeared as soon as the two of them mentioned it. He rushed over and called out to Piero. Asmafel thought to himself, he's always looking for Piero. Piero happily responded to him. He arrived just in time. Grid had just landed when the knights shouted. Eternal Savior, Raiden's son, it is an honor to meet you, Great Duke. Grid smiled and commented. The discipline was so strict, I thought everyone would be exhausted from the morning training. Piero introduced him. This was Asmafel's army, a powerful army with 8 knights. There were 4,000 soldiers. Grid kept praising, making Asmafel blush. Both Piero and Asmafel did a great job, so I felt much more at ease. Asmafel shyly bowed his head. My lord, thank you for your compliments. Only then did Piero ask about the situation. I saw Count Lao leave a few days ago. Aren't you planning on resting and joining the battle with them? Grid replied without hesitation. Yes, it seems like there's something urgent. So I need something. Character observation, Grid said while summoning the Great Lord Sword. Only now did he notice Asmafel. Oh, that's strange. Asmafel, the person he was aiming for in pursuit of power balance was Pario. Asmafel blankly responded with an yes, not understanding what Grid was trying to say. Grid thought to himself, Piero's only rival in the past, the swordsman Asmafel, was truly a legendary figure. It was only after 2 years of coming to Raidan that he truly perfected himself. Grid smiled brightly. Without any hesitation, he said, you're so trustworthy, lend me some travel expenses to Asmafel. Asmafel was moved to tears, calling out Grid's name, thinking to himself. Did he finally realize his worth that day? Grid shouldered the Great Lord's sword and summoned No outside. Before Asmafel could react, No pushed him to the ground. No laughed gleefully and asked his master. Ha, is it okay to eat this person? Niang. After being drained of all his strength, Asmafel lay exhausted on the ground, unable to get up again. However, he still did not expect that the Lord would do this to him. Grid happily flew away, even turning back to thank him. His agility is really high. Thanks to him, I will be able to fly much faster. Even Piero didn't expect Grid to do that. He looked at Asmafel and laughed. Ha, after swallowing him, you're just going to throw away his temporary skills and stats? Asmafel sat up and said sadly to Piero, one of the strongest in Sahara like me is being treated so coldly. It seems he still doesn't completely trust me, Piero. I don't think I can forgive myself for my past actions. Asmafel was almost begging Piero with tears in his eyes. I don't know what to do now, please help me. Piero just gently placed his hand on his shoulder and reassured him. Asmafel. Then act friendly, give him a rake and coax. Take this, you will feel better soon. At this moment, Grid was flying like the wind, and No beside him kept praising him. Goa, his energy is so good, can Master feel it, Nyang? Grid immediately replied. Of course, my body became lighter, to the point that I could fly at the same speed as you. Anyway, at this speed we will catch up to Lowell soon. Let's hurry before the energy disappears. I have to finish this quickly and go see Irene. No replied quickly. Understood. Nyang, in the place where the war was happening, there was a loud explosion that startled everyone. What? What was that? Lowell brought Jishuka, Tobin and Ibelin and shouted loudly to announce. Reinforcements had arrived. Jishuka said to Lowell. The situation is more serious than I thought, are we late? Lowell just landed and checked to see if the person lying on the ground was still alive. By the way, answering Jishuka, the invaders were indeed the Blood Guild. They were blocking the communication of nearby players with an item called a Chaos Field. Lowell took the item hanging from the neck of the person lying on the ground and showed it to Jishuka. It was an expensive item worth $300,000, so it was likely only available to players with third-tier advancement jobs, Lowell thought. That was also the reason why the communication between Euphemina and the advanced team had been cut off. In other words, Euphemina and the Vanguard were facing off against the strong ones with the third-tier advancement professions of the Blood Guild. This is a difficult situation. Especially for those who are getting weaker and weaker in prolonged battles like Euphemina. Ibelin asked everyone. We have to hurry, right? Lowell replied sternly. Yes. This side has a move that just hit the Blood Clan to protect the mother and child of the Water Clan. Pond gasped as he looked around for Euphemina. Where the hell was Euphemina? Suddenly all three heard a noise, so they turned back to look. Fortunately, Extreme Sword appeared in time to help them repel the Blood Clansman who was about to attack, he said loudly. There were too many enemies, it was difficult to fight while also having to protect the Water Clansman. Huroi and Pond felt the same way. It was impossible to stop all of these enemies, but at this rate their health and stamina would be depleted. If Regis was reaching his limit, it meant that even the star level had joined this battle. CUC Kim angrily used his sword to sweep away the Blood Race people. He was so annoyed that he cursed. Damn, if only we could contact the guild, this battle would be so much easier. There are too many limitations for us to be able to protect the Water Tribe, destroy the enemy, and find Euphemina. Seeing that the situation was not good, CUC Kim immediately replaced Euphemina to command everyone. First, they had to find a suitable place to protect the Water Tribe and stabilize the situation. Pond would cover and protect the Water Tribe people while Huroi would ensure the safety of the area. Madashir took advantage of the moment when CUC Kim wasn't paying attention to sneak attack him, then arrogantly said, You can't even do anything in the international tournament and yet you're trusted to fight me alone like this. Ji Jian gritted his teeth and thought to himself. It's a third-level advancement profession, and he attacked us as soon as we split up. I know better than anyone my own shortcomings in the tournament. It turned out that the guy who had just ambushed him was Ma Thuang. Nicknamed Madashir, CUC Kim remembered his name and started to ponder. Madashir instant noodles, were they the instant noodles in the army, could they be Korean? Ji Jian asked Ma Shang curiously, what about the player profession with the third-level advancement profession in Korea that I don't know about? Didn't you apply to represent your country in the tournament? Ma Shang laughed in response. Hee, isn't that competition any different from a performance? It's only for people like you, even drawing a sword in front of an opponent feels difficult. He had just finished speaking when he continuously attacked Ji Jian. He had no time to counterattack, so he had to think of another way. Damn it, no matter how fast he was at drawing his sword, there were still many openings when facing a master. His endurance was also gradually depleting. Suddenly, the demon spear guy let out a painful scream. The system notification kept ringing. Suffered 21500 damage, the smell of blood caused dizziness. Blood seeped into the armor and blade, causing you to fall into a slow state. Skill casting time increased by 20%, magic resistance reduced by 20%. Physical defense reduced by 20%, attack power reduced by 10%. The demon spear felt extremely confused. He immediately shouted. Both damage and debuff effects are critical. Who are you? A shadow suddenly appeared behind him and said to Ji Jian. Don't treat him as a formidable opponent, Ji Jian. If we give in to a piece of trash like him, we'll be lumped together with them. The demon spear guy was frightened and stammered. Is it Blood, a blood warrior? He ran away in panic, shouting angrily. You helped this guy too? Does that mean you've joined the elite club? Blood warrior, the demon spear thought to himself. A bloody place like this was his battlefield. I must escape from here quickly. Hearing him call him that, the blood warrior said angrily. Calling me by a name like that hurts my feelings. Don't call me that anymore. I chase contribution points to get good equipment. So it's better to call me Grid Subordinate. He also kindly reminded the demon spear. The blood of thousands of people on this battlefield. The damage must be very painful. After saying that, he immediately gave the demon spear enough to eat. The demon spear angrily shouted. Then he even insulted the blood warrior. Where is the pride of this person to call himself a subordinate? Even Ji Jian, who was watching from the sidelines, was terrified. That terrifying power could destroy that guy in an instant. If we only count on this battlefield, he was stronger than Krugel and Grid. After killing that demon spear, he calmly said to Ji Jian. Even if you're careless, you still have eyes, right Ji Jian? Quickly report to Grid. On this side all the castles had been reduced to rubble. Smoke and fire could be seen everywhere. Euphemina was panting now. It seemed like she had used all her strength to destroy all the bloods around her. Euphemina thought to herself. I've been here for 8 months. And it's all for nothing. She turned to the blood woman and said. You're such a liar. The blood race woman smiled happily. He, you don't have any strength left. So now I win, huh? Euphemina couldn't figure out how she could keep reviving. Her observation skill wasn't working, so she couldn't tell what her abilities were. Saying that, she waved the dagger in her hand. She looked at her lovingly as if she was looking at a delicious prey and asked. He, so now we die, huh? Euphemina blamed herself. Even though she still had the skills, she couldn't take it anymore. The mission was a failure. I'm sorry, my comrades, I couldn't repay you all for trying your best to come here to help me. The woman suddenly spoke up. Undersea Kingdom, you had a proper vacation, Euphemina. Who would have thought that as soon as she finished speaking, an unknown source of power appeared and attacked her? She looked at the woman with wide eyes, and the system notification rang out. Overwhelmed by an unknown source of powerful energy, you will be pushed back a long distance. Euphemina was also surprised to see this. This skill was. The blood woman had not yet had time to counterattack when she was hit by another attack. She screamed in pain. She suffered 34,720 damage. She had never been this surprised in her entire life. What was this? Nearly 35,000 damage. I was equipped with legendary items. Someone like me who could withstand the ultimate of the heavenly beyond heaven had to take that much damage. Is this the guy? A new guy named Grid. Grid still has time to tease Euphemina. It's been a long time since we last met. Are you planning to leave first, Euphemina? She didn't reply but just gently called his name, Grid. The bloodkin woman quickly rushed towards Grid even though her arm was still bleeding. He, dead. Grid was quite surprised. Oh, being hit by a killing move and being able to attack back immediately, that leather armor seems sturdy. Grid originally only intended to look at the armor she was wearing, but unexpectedly his eyes fell on the blood woman's alluring breasts. Grid blushed and muttered under his breath, even louder than Jashuka. Euphemina beside him was so angry that blood rushed to her head. What are you doing? Get a grip. She laughed strangely, taking advantage of Grid's distraction to rush forward. She intended to use her screw sword to give him a fatal blow. Seeing this, Grid had to praise her. She closed in quickly. Grid glanced. Then suddenly turned back just as she was attacking. The system notification rang out. Take 10,256 damage. While the blood woman was wondering what was happening, there was a loud bang. She was sent flying by Grid, the blood race woman thought to herself as she dodged Grid's attack. A screw sword with a critical hit that only deals 10,000 damage, his defense is terrifying. What kind of armor is that? On the contrary, my sword is almost broken. Even with 3,000 agility I can't avoid that attack speed. But my sword touched him first. His speed and attack technique are also my advantages. Even if you are the winner of the tournament, you will still lose to me. While the bloodkin woman was evaluating Grid, Grid was also analyzing his opponent. He wondered, you're quite strong, right? But I don't think I've seen you in the world competition, unofficial ranker. But it doesn't seem like you're a star level. Grid added another sentence of disdain. With that strength, how far do you think you can run? Grid's two powerful arms were helping him catch her. Grid was now muttering to himself, he couldn't let her lose. Even though she was inferior to Jashuka in every way, Euphemina behind him saw his perverted expression and quickly hugged her chest. Grid stopped playing around and immediately used Pagma's sword technique, Super Chain. To kill that blood woman, Euphemina was now extremely surprised. The first strike was the same, now it was the same. Grid, since when did you become so strong? Grid replied cheerfully but not at all to the point. It's been a long time since we rebuilt Raidan. By the way, this black demon guy seems really strong. Was this battle so difficult that it turned her into this? Euphemina explained. She was from the Blood Guild, and she had died and revived 3 times already, so the battle kept dragging on. Also, I didn't know if Resurrection was a job skill or an item effect. She had just finished speaking when the strange laughter of the blood woman rang out again. He. Grid was startled. Again, she revived again. It seemed that this skill had no limit on the number of resurrections. Euphemina at the side provided more information to Grid. The number of invaders was decreasing. It seemed that others had arrived as well, but if there were more experts like this, it would be dangerous. Grid replied, I also observed on the way here. Everyone is having a hard time. Don't worry too much. Regis is currently fighting another bloodline, but it seems he's on the defensive. Continuously taking the other guy's attacks without being able to defend or counterattack, for them the most dangerous situation is also when they are at their strongest. Suddenly the place where Regis was standing exploded. It turned out that No had come to Regis to help him. No happily said, ha ha ha, I'm here, Nyang. I'm the strongest magical beast in hell, although I never help humans. But because my master begged me, I came here. The bloodline man was suspicious. A pet, it seemed like the size was a bit off. It moved around on its own without its owner by its side. That meant it was the highest level pet, smarter than a flying dragon. Whose was it? Regis painfully fell to his knees, clutching his stomach. He was deep in thought, white demon, an extremely powerful fighter. The only person who advanced to the battle maniac class like me would hardly survive. A master who could freely utilize every part of his body to fight perfectly. I have no dignity in being pushed back in a match like this. But right now, winning is the top priority. I have to rely on No. Regis immediately ordered No. Take all of that guy's stats. No immediately dashed away upon hearing the order. Understand, Nyang? On this side, Grid and Euphemina were thinking of ways to deal with that bloodkin woman. Is that so? Resurrection? Then dying no matter how many times is useless. However, this seemingly cheating skill cannot be performed indefinitely without penalty. Although it is unknown what the punishment is, the so-called resurrection is likely a clone, capable of unlimited regeneration. It is possible that her original body is hiding somewhere. Grid didn't know where he was looking, but his whole body felt like it was on fire. His face was red. Drool was flowing around his mouth. But it was unreasonable for a clone to be so strong. Especially other places looked very dangerous. Euphemina asked Grid angrily. Doesn't it hurt your eyes? The blood woman said smugly to Grid. You have some understanding. But this battle is not over yet. With your profession, what can you do to me? Let's see how you'll deal with a mage with armor made of thick steel plates that only defend against physical damage like me. Euphemina widened her eyes as she saw her using magic. She could even switch jobs? No way. Grid was in danger. Rocks and dirt flew out from behind the blood woman's attack. She took advantage of the situation and advanced further. He. It's useless to analyze my skills in a one-on-one battle. Grid's voice echoed around without him in sight, making her confused. That's right. It was all just an assumption. Then Grid and Euphemina suddenly appeared. So whether you use magic or sword, whatever weapon you have, do your best. If you can't revive, then you'll die. She was infuriated by Grid's provocation. He was showing off like that even though he didn't know who his opponent was. Don't be so smug. On Regis' side, No was defeated by the Blood Man. He arrogantly said, there are more than just you monsters in this world. Throwing toys around will not help. You look weak. Now let's see how you can get more teammates. The blood woman still had that strange smile on her face. He. So many items? How many do you have? Grid smiled back. It's more than your life. Just rest assured and attack. Defeating you will surely give me a lot of experience points for using items. Who would have thought that this time she would change her mind? Unlike Kraugle. This bastard was someone who attacked others unconsciously and was strong and resilient. This is bad. I have to escape. So she immediately flew into the air. Grid below hurriedly pulled her back. Hey, where are you going? How many lives do you have left? Grid used his blacksmith eyes to observe her carefully and suddenly felt. His attack power and speed were both weaker than before. A change in class would change his stats, the wand and cloak seemed high-end. But this item didn't seem to have the ability to revive or change classes. A scam skill like Resurrection can't possibly be a title effect. It's probably an inherent ability of a certain profession. It's possible that she's a legendary profession advancement. Grid stopped joking and spoke seriously. Even so, this trick was a bit too much. Grid used both ultimate and continuous moves at the same time. Before she disappeared, not only did she not seem scared, she even laughed. Ha. She's dead again? Grid thought to himself. It's possible that her real body is hiding somewhere. He said arrogantly, keep laughing, you never know when you will be attacked again. Enhanced Magic Detection Level 2. Detects all objects within a 13-meter radius. Grid was furious after scanning the surroundings. This was serious. There were so many lives on both sides disappearing. These bastards, this was truly a pointless war. Suddenly, Grid had a new discovery. Among them, there was a sign running in the opposite direction. Because the magic power detection level was low, Grid could not see the details yet. But just the location was enough. The woman's true form was hiding when the explosion created by Grid blocked her path. He said seriously. So that's what she looks like. Her nickname is So Red. How many people has she killed? Nickname, Black Demon. Level unknown. Job unknown. Race human. Player status. Black Demon was startled. Stepping back, he questioned Grid. How did you know my location? It turns out that her profession is an illusionist. What Euphemina is facing is an illusionary creature created by the Dark Demon. The Dark Demon's power is to create imaginary creatures, objects, and places in reality, and grant them the ability to revive with near immortality. Grid approached. He teased smugly. This ability is amazing. What kind of profession is this? Legendary? She covered her face and scowled, chasing him away. Get out of the way. Do you think I will answer a pervert like you? Grid saw her panic and thought to himself, insecure about her appearance. Just like me before. Appearance is just a cover. He muttered. If I defeat her now so she never touches my guild again, she will slowly realize her mistake, right? At this moment, she was also racking her brain. If she died with her infamy at its peak, one of the important items for the illusionist profession would definitely drop. She absolutely could not die. The total stats of the illusion are the same as the summoner. But the stats distribution is different depending on the profession of each illusion transformed into. The Black Demon wasted no time and immediately made her move, displaying an illusion, because her opponent was someone who could switch between different defensive armors and had physical and magical attacks. Therefore, she chose the class of Magic Swordsman, specializing in both magic and physical attacks, with high strength and intelligence to deal with Grid. The number of illusions created per day is limited to 5, and your level will decrease by 1 as a sacrifice every time an illusion is summoned. The illusionist pays a terrible price in experience loss, and the price for exceeding the number of summons is a huge level drop. Black Demon encouraged himself, he could endure this terrible sacrifice, as long as he made sure not to lose the item. Black Demon laughed happily. Ha ha ha, no matter what you do, it's useless, just die. Grid quickly broke her illusion. Idiot, that was just a common swordsman's magic. My normal magical defense would be enough. Euphemina shouted a reminder to him. Dangerous, Grid, she thought to herself. No attack is without purpose. Surely, then. As expected, it was just as Euphemina had predicted. The Dark Demon held her sword close to Grid's neck and said smugly. I must have some ulterior motive. Grid quickly escaped her blade and landed on the ground. Then get up again. But Grid's defensive speed drove her crazy as she kept missing. What? This guy, you dodged my high-speed attack. There's no way you could dodge it with that heavy armor. Even Grid was surprised. I don't know how I dodged it. I felt the sword energy from that sword. Thinking it was dangerous, I just closed my eyes and backed away. Suddenly his eyes widened as he remembered the diamond game room. This game room had an incredibly uniform ratio. It felt like he was moving live. Grid quickly used 3 consecutive kills to counterattack. However, the Dark Demon quickly recovered. He continued to be lost in his thoughts. However, rankers like him who believed in their own strength would be complacent. This was a surefire attack that targeted complacency. You wouldn't have time to dodge it. Luck would be the limit. Before she could even make a move, she was hit by Grid's extremely deadly move. It was a Dark Demon that had dominated the top of the food chain and killed hundreds of people of the aquatic tribe. The Dark Demon was not satisfied, and continued to ask. Me? I had already aimed. How could that be? Grid smiled smugly. My body is now as light as a feather. Be careful. Attacking requires defense as well. However, she did not know that she was standing before the sharp teeth of a ferocious beast. The Black Demon was in great pain. AAA. The system notification sounded. You have defeated the player Black Demon. The punishment of the evildoer has increased your reputation by 2,000. Grid breathed a sigh of relief. He had used up all his strength. Now he was really going to die. Ha! The system notification kept ringing without stopping. The demon sword Iorugd had completed its growth. The Iorugd sword status panel appears. Legendary rank. Growth. Attack power 1293. Sword mastery level 5 to 7. When hitting a target, target's healing ability is reduced by 50 to 70%. When activating a critical hit, inflicts a slight stun effect and has a stacking bleeding effect. When reaching 3 combos, maximize the bleeding effect on the target. The damage dealt to the target is increased by 300% for 2 seconds. When reaching 5 combos, the target's spirit collapses for 0.3 seconds. There is a chance to link the Hell Sword skill. Activate the Demon Sword Sense. Maximize the accuracy rate for 5 seconds. Grid rejoiced. The basic attack power has increased by 500. All optional effects have also increased. It was a one-handed sword with high attack speed, so its attack power was even greater than Grid's greatsword. This was the legendary Iarugd. The one-handed version was no different from a waste. The announcement rang out once more. A bonus skill had been created. Grid looked at the legendary sword and thought to himself. Furthermore, there is also this amazing skill. Dark Demon, it's all thanks to you. Grid breathed a sigh of relief. Wow, this is good. Finally solved the problem during the tournament. Suddenly, a bright purple light on the ground caught Grid's attention. He recognized it as a drop from the Dark Demon. It was only natural, since her infamy had reached its maximum. Since she had so many transformations, it was unlikely she would drop anything great. Legendary Ring of Irrationalism. A masterpiece created by chance by the great mage Paul. It exerts the effect of ignoring reason. Skill or magic resource consumption is reduced by 50%, mana recovery speed multiplied. Grid was startled when he read this. Skill resource consumption was reduced by half. Suddenly a strange voice rang out. This is pretty cool. Paul did well in his later years. Grid quickly recognized it as Braham and asked him. Is he an acquaintance of yours? Braham did not hesitate to introduce him. He was a pitiful mage who was known as the one who would forever be second. He was talented, but why was he born in the same era as me if he could never become the strongest? Grid was a bit suspicious when he saw how arrogant he was. He definitely couldn't trust this old man's words. Looking at the glowing ring, Grid was a little curious. The clever words on the inside had the effect of reducing resource consumption. If it was a skill resource consumption, it would include mana, health, and even fighting spirit. An item that saves 20% of resources costs at least 3 billion won, but this one saves 50%, and the mana recovery speed is doubled. If all those bastards from the Blood Moon clan dropped such cool items, how much would it cost in total? Kill them all immediately. A loud explosion from the other side of the building startled Euphemina and Grid. Euphemina asked doubtfully, what was this explosion about? Grid thought to himself, it was Regis' direction. Even with no, it was still difficult. Now was not the time to worry about items. Grid did not hesitate and immediately rushed out. He called out to Euphemina. Euphemina, I'll go first, slowly recover and then come over. Marty immediately burst out laughing as soon as he saw Grid rushing over. Ha 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 ha. From that look, you must be Grid. A promising candidate for the children's tournament. You are perfect for testing my bomb. It's a wide area bomb, so you can't escape. Don't even think about killing me. The one who spoke was Marty, a cannon wizard. Grid didn't have the energy to joke with him anymore. He said angrily. I don't have time to deal with little brats. Ibelin quickly flew over and used his sword to tear him apart easily. Grid did not hesitate to praise him. You're really smart, little boy. I've put some rewards in your bag, so take them out. Eat a lot and grow up quickly. But Ibelin was not in the mood to joke with Grid. He said seriously. If you come, you should let everyone know. Besides, I'm 18 years old. I'm a full-grown adult. Regis is in danger. Hurry up and go over there. In the burning citadel, the sounds of killing mixed with deafening cries for help echoed. Die. Hey, the bloodsuckers whispered to each other. Bring some more of them here. Oh my god, Regis. That madman is fighting 200 men already. Regis fought and protected No. He felt guilty and spoke up. Yes, I was careless Niang. Sorry human. But Regis was kind and didn't take it to heart. He brushed it aside. It's okay, just hang in there a little longer. No, kindly reminded Regis. Is there such an arrogant strong person in this world? Niang, she might be a little stronger than Master. Niang, but she suddenly stopped moving. Bai Yao widened his eyes in surprise. He didn't want to believe this was true. Black Yao, is he dead? If all the clones were lost, the penalty would be extremely high. Because of the infamy, even the highest grade items would definitely drop. The death of the Dark Demon would cause 1,000 times more damage than the deaths of the others. Bai Yao was furious. These bastards. How dare they kill my sister? Die, all of them. Kill all of them quickly. Suddenly the wall behind exploded. Regis and his teammates turned around in shock to see what had just happened when they suddenly heard their teammates' voices transmitted through their consciousness. Tobin cheered. Keep it up, Regis. I'll be there soon. Huroy also informed him. Regis, the rear team has arrived. Jashuka, Laul and Ibelin are also nearby. Regis regained his fighting spirit. He smiled and said to No. Reliable voices. You will definitely be saved. No. Let's try to combine them properly next time. Regis had barely finished speaking when he immediately threw No away, making No extremely angry. How dare you do that to this body? A human. But after looking at Regis's bloody back, No's anger turned to worry. Human. Back. Did you save me just now? Regis reassured him. Don't worry. Even a broken branch can be used as a clothes hanger. At least I should have lit a lamp on the way my teammates got here. Then he quickly flew to Bakyu. But he was able to easily grab Regis' ankle and throw Regis hard to the ground. Knocked out in seconds. Baiyu kept provoking him. Do you think those guys will crawl in and intervene when they know for sure they will die? You brat, you don't have a very good head. The brat just came to play and dares to touch my sister. Die, you bastard. Even now, Regis could still smile. He told himself. If that was the case, he would definitely need to spend more time training harder. What a pity. Just then, Jashuka and Laul appeared in time. Both of them shouted his name loudly. Regis, Regis. Endlessly. The green light shot past everyone's eyes, directly attacking the white demon, but unfortunately he saw it. He thought to himself, a fierce sword aimed straight at the weak point. He was different from the others. Grid was equally surprised by the white demon's reaction speed. He dodged it, his reaction speed was faster than a diamond game room with an attack that was executed in an instant, endlessly rampaging. Furthermore, unlike this guy, Regis was covered in injuries when he fought him. The white demon took advantage of Grid's distraction to wrestle him to the ground. He asked angrily. Is it you, the one who killed my sister? Grid was still calmly thinking, nicknamed White Demon. This was the star-level expert that Laul mentioned. Bakyu angrily shouted, it seems like I'm the only one suffering the same pain. From afar a crowd of people rushed over shouting. Destroy that bastard. Regis was unwilling to see his teammates die. Of course, Grid was the same, he couldn't deal with so many people. How could he handle it with just dozens of people on his team? At this rate, Regis would die first. Now it was necessary to let the number of people increase to balance. So Grid immediately used his Knight's summoning authority. Regis called out, Toon, Vanner, while Toon was watching excitedly. Oh, is it the aquatic battlefield? Then Vanner noticed Regis' condition and asked him, why are you so exhausted, Regis? Asmafel and Faker also appeared soon after. Grid arrogantly pointed at Bakyu and said, oh, and your sister is waiting for you, so go away. Bakyu looked blankly at the drops of blood rolling down his face and onto his hands. At this moment, Piero's voice also rang out, oh my, why did my lord suddenly call me like that? This potato is really big. My sickle was in the wrong place. It turned out that Piero's sickle was aimed straight at the head of the white demon. While he was restraining Grid. Summon the Knight Piero. She hurriedly stomped her feet and ran backwards. Made Grid extremely surprised. He withstood Piero's attack. On Bakyu's bloody face, the look of disbelief was even more obvious. Farmer? No, before that, it hurt, what is it? This crazy attack, there's something on my forehead. The sickle, the sickle. Piero still smiled provocatively. Oh, even though I didn't put any effort into it, I didn't expect you to be able to endure it. You don't plan on doing farm work again. Bai Yao was insulted and was about to charge forward in anger. What nonsense are you talking about? Who are you? As soon as she finished speaking, her punch was gently blocked by Piero. Piero replied calmly, I am an excellent farmer serving the Duke, Grid. With that, he punched her in the head. In the same place he had just stabbed her. Bai Yao screamed in pain, AAA, Bai Yao thought in fear. He hit the same weak point twice, that guy. The crazy farmer of Raidan took down the 7 guilds that attacked Raidan? Are the rumors true? Bai Yao thought as she attacked, but unfortunately, she missed. Every time she did, Piero continued to brainwash her. Just by looking at the way she punched, you could tell she had a talent for farming. After hearing that, Bai Yao argued back and shut up. What does fighting have to do with farming? What are you going to do with those guys? Hurry up and hit this guy. Who would have thought that her soldiers were already blocked outside by the elite group and beaten to a pulp long ago? Without a ticket, they can't get in. Wait, where did Faker go? Everyone, be careful. It's too sturdy to penetrate. That one-eyed guy is also very strong, be careful. Asmophel used his shining sword to toy with them. The blood race people kept screaming. The one in front warned the one behind. Be careful of the NPC named Asmophel. He's strong. Suddenly, someone shouted at Bai Yao. Bai Yao, what are you doing? Instead of playing with that farmer, come here quickly. Bring the farmer too. So that Asmophel is at most just an NPC soldier. But isn't he too strong? This sentence offended Asmophel's pride. No one had ever dared to call him a soldier. Bai Yao thought in his mind about changing his strategy. Impossible. He had already been swept away by those guys using high-end equipment. The situation was changing too quickly. If he wanted to turn the tide, he had to take down Grid, the leader of this battle. But before Bai Yao could even think, Piero quickly caught him. Where are you going? Someone is trying their best to introduce you to a job, so you should answer. Unexpectedly, the belt wrapped around her body broke. Then she screamed. Increase body fat. As soon as she finished speaking, her entire body became massive and gigantic, pushing Piero away. Temporarily increases the amount of fat in the body by 10 times, nullifying enemy attacks for the duration. Deals damage to targets attacking herself within a 10-meter radius. The white demon shouted loudly, having cleared all the obstacles. Luckily, Grid had a sharp eye. If he hadn't changed his equipment to Braham's boots in time, he would have been crushed by the flying white demon. You must pay for my dark demon sister's life. Grid. Grid just smiled and said, if you have extremely high physical resistance that can withstand Regis and Pario's attacks, then there is only one solution. Irrational Ring, tell your sister that thanks to her, my inventory has been filled. Grid did not hesitate and continuously released his moves, level 3 enhanced magic arrow, magic arrow, magic arrow, magic arrow, magic arrow. White demon was continuously hit and cried out in pain, ah. She thought hatefully. That ring was the one that the dark demon had to work so hard to buy, and that bastard dared. I was already using a pretty good magic resistance item, but why did this low-level magic cause such painful damage? Bai Yao shouted angrily. If you are a man, come down here and beat me up properly. That despicable brat Grid laughed mockingly. What, can't you fly? You guys have a lot of expensive items, I'll slowly take them all out. He turned to carefully instruct Piero, if she gets hit she'll die instantly, if any items drop, remember to take them. Bai Yao had never been looked down upon like this before, so his anger was understandable. This guy, he dares to joke with people. Finally, the white demon decided to use her last talisman. She announced to Grid, even Krobel has never seen me in this fighting form. You should be honored. Suddenly, a giant vortex appeared around her. Burn fat. After the transformation, she was thin and had toned muscles like a bodybuilder. Bai Yao intended to kick him while Grid had yet to judge her position. She had dodged all the magic arrows and with that speed and ability. Bai Yao smiled. A sharp kick with high speed and power that can split a mountain. If you hit it, you will be split in two immediately. If you hit it, it will be split vertically, if you dodge it, it will be split horizontally. Which one do you choose, you country bumpkin? But she didn't know that while she wanted to sneak attack Grid, someone else was also trying to sneak attack her. Before Bai Yao could even attack, Piero punched the wound on the back of his neck. How dare you do that to your lord? All destroyed. You are dead. With just one move Piero was able to defeat her, leaving her unwilling to die. Grid was also quite regretful, really, I couldn't catch up with her speed. Piero was even more regretful. What a pity, I thought I could take it. Who would have thought I couldn't take a single blow? Even though it was difficult, everything was still very good. Grid took off Swan's armor and changed into a monarch's robe. Then he excitedly ordered everyone. All right, everyone. They're rich. Let's loot all their items. This is the looting festival. All the blood clans in the city spread the rumor. The white demon was hit by a sickle and died. Sickle, AAA, run away. Scott calmly recounted all the rumors he had heard, starting with cats. But after the entire group arrived in high-end gear, the members of the Blood Moon Society were momentarily disillusioned. Nox was curious. What are you talking about so nonchalantly? Because of the aid, our mercenaries are useless. But it feels like the elite group needs to grow. Should we report to the leader to punish them sooner? Scott didn't think it was necessary. The boss had judged that conquering outside forces would be more effective. He probably didn't care about the guild war right now. The NPC who had recently joined the guild, Donix, also had a chance to grow to that farmer's level, so there was no need to worry. Anyway, now we have to go back and check the strength of the White Demon Sisters and the elite group. Then Scott turned to instruct the water people. You guys just stay there and hide quietly. The battle is almost over. Nox wondered. So fast. Let's go find some high-end players. I want to play a match with Faker. But Scott disagrees. It's time to go. If we wait, the high-end tactical kid will block our way out. But Scott still spoke confidently. No matter which guild we fight against, we can't lose. Because the one we serve is the ruler of the battlefield. The goal is to become the emperor. The god Ares. The Blood Moon Guild people on Jasuka and Vander's side still didn't seem to know that their leader had been eliminated. So they continued to attack the two of them from all sides. Those bastards with high-end equipment. How long are you going to ruin other people's business? There are only 10 of them at most. We have 1,000 men. Push them back quickly. Vander saw that the situation was not good, so he turned back to Jasuka and said, Jasuka, there are still many enemies. The shield is almost at its limit. So you should escape first. Jasuka was determined to fight to the death. Are you planning to die alone? You'll end up in hell anyway. Suddenly a fire exploded, sending the Blood Moon Society members flying far away. Vander asked in surprise. What was that? Fire in the storm. It turned out to be Zednos and Liella. We had just arrived. There were quite a lot of them. Jasuka and Vander breathed a sigh of relief when they realized they were members of their guild. Jasuka and Liella met and laughed as if this was not a battlefield. Didn't she say she was preparing for a new album? When did her strength become so strong? Liella also spoke the truth. I still practice with Zednos sometimes. Their carefree cheerfulness made Vander angrily remind them. Now is not the time to laugh. In the end, instead of 2 people being surrounded, it became 4 people being surrounded. Third-tier career advancement people were pouring in one after another. There was also a person who was enthusiastically going to attack the people of the blood race. It turned out to be Tarma of the Blood Moon Guild. Unexpectedly, when he bent down to look at the situation below, he saw Grid not fighting but picking up items. He thought to himself. I didn't expect to meet that guy here. The guy who thwarted Kraugel's assassination in the tournament and embarrassed himself with a 2-second video. Tarma quickly jumped to the roof of another building to get closer to Grid. Must take revenge. You just devour that piece of cheese and die. But before he could do anything, he received a system notification. You are dead. It turned out that Faker quickly destroyed him without letting anything touch Grid. While Grid was excitedly collecting items. Oh, there's another item here. Whose is it? Euphemina ran up and called Grid's name. Then reported the situation. Since the reinforcements had been dispatched earlier than expected, I was worried about the absence of the army in Raydan. If I could entrust the battlefield to my comrades, it would be better to quickly meet the Water King to shorten the mission time. Grid also agreed. That must be it. Grid immediately called out to Lowell. Oh, Lowell is here too. Hey, the Lord's representative is going to meet the Water King. Lowell asked again. Yes, now. But the enemy still had more than 1,000 men. It would be too hasty to leave optimistically now. Euphemina was at a loss for words when she heard him say that. What? That, the Water King Maxong had been living in seclusion for several years since losing his princess, only leaving his bedroom once every 3 days. If you miss this opportunity, you will have to wait another 3 days. Lowell was helpless after hearing this. However, hiding in the midst of chaos, you cannot abandon your comrades. Grid felt happy for Lowell after hearing that. In the end, the negotiation partner had to be the king. Lowell knew that clearly but was still worried about his teammates. He had grown up. Grid reassured them. It was fine. Because I had carefully arranged for the people to advance to the 3rd class of the outer city. In the remaining place, the Blood Clansmen were terrified every time they saw Asmophel. It was that soldier again. Farmers and NPC soldiers were monsters. What kind of mysterious power did Raydan have? Asmophel started to feel sad after hearing them. Even though this was the stage that the Lord had opened for him, he was only used as a common soldier. Vander behind him saw that Asmathel's mood was unstable, so he kindly reminded him to adjust his mood. He was so strong, but he was only burying himself in military training. Inherent characteristics, skills are the atmosphere of the late success and obsession of the second place. I never thought his endless potential would blossom in Raydan. Grid was calculating. Right now in Raydan, including me. He was the strongest after Piero. He was the only guy I could trust. Asmathel decided to not care about it anymore. Even if it was the duty of a common soldier, it was still a very honorable thing. This Asmathel only wanted to prove himself as the master's sword on the battlefield. The obsession of being second in command, activated when he couldn't prove himself, created new skills and permanently increased all stats. Everyone is with the captain of the Magic Knight squad wearing high-end equipment. Go ahead with peace of mind. Euphemina told Grid and Lowell. Maxon had 3 children, Paon, Nuon and Galon. Except for the lazy second prince, the other 2 were very active in blocking outside forces to protect their people. 5 years ago, he lost his beloved youngest daughter Ohong. Lowell was puzzled after hearing this. Although the princes were wary of human greed, they understood the reclusive king in this situation. Euphemina immediately replied. Most of the Water Tribe did not care about Maxon's seclusion. The Water Tribe had cultivated their own culture without any interaction with any other nation. For the people here, this place is the whole world. They are simple but stubborn people. They don't want to change anything. That's why they have a strong attachment to their family. For Maxon, Ohong's death is like the world collapsing. Although the castle is very big, it is only a shell of the heart. An empty heart cannot be expressed. Grid was silent and did not discuss anything. Lowell stepped forward to open the door of the Water Tribe Palace and commented. It was all just an excuse. Lazy people gave birth to an incompetent king. How could one sleep while their country was being invaded? That would be like giving up. Things have to change to adapt to the situation, don't they? That king is too weak. But first, let's see if we can talk to a sleeping body. The king sitting on the throne was the Water King Maxon, the 35th king of Siren. As the eldest son, he would naturally sit on the throne. That was why he wore the crown on his head without any expectations. King Maxon spoke when he saw the 3 of them enter. The minister said that you saved my people. On behalf of my people, I would like to express my gratitude. The prophet Myon will reward everyone. Take it and leave. King Maxon is just a stone lying there. Lowell thought to himself. What an insincere explanation that is incomprehensible. That's why Grid is so excited. Pay attention and give advice. Grid angrily cursed King Maxon. Get that pig's ass up and kneel down here and talk. He questioned him. Thanks for saving him, is that all it takes? Lowell hurriedly reminded. Oh. Grid. We have to ally with him. Be careful with your words. Grid just calmly replied. Looking into his eyes, I changed my mind. That guy can't change anything no matter what he says. That thing is the king, so let me eat it. Mermaid royalty, serve me. If you do not obey, I will destroy this place. King Maxon stood there. He opened his mouth and asked Grid. Are you so blind because you have never experienced the fear of the sea? I am the king of the sea. My existence alone is enough to embrace all things. But it can also devour all things. I am a unique being that you must respect. I serve no one. The system announcements continued to ring. Maxon had unleashed the wrath of the Water King. The voice of the chosen king contained unbearable majesty and the power to split the sea in 2. Suffered internal injuries. Health will be continuously consumed. Water resistance reduced by 50%. All speed reduced by 20%. Skill cooldowns are increased by 20%. You are thrown into a state of terror and chaos by the approaching tsunami. Magic resistance. Grid felt a little regretful now. It was true that he provoked first, but why did it suddenly turn out like this? A terrifying power that was unavoidable. Roots cover. A pile of trees appeared to block the power of King Maxon's attack. Grid asked in surprise. Euphemina, you can resist it. Euphemina replied. I prepared everything before coming here. A new quest appeared, so I shared it with you. The Hidden Wrath of the Water King. Hidden Link Quest of the Hidden Impending Collapse. Maximum 5 participants. Grid suddenly felt abnormal. The closed heart of the king who had been grieving over the departure of Princess Ohong was released in anger. Let him, who had never been defeated before, taste his first defeat and be forced to look towards reality. Completion condition, consume 90% of Maxon's health. Failure condition, Maxon dies or all mission participants die. Reward success. Maxon awakens and becomes Maxon's benefactor. Increases the growth rate and favorability of the mermaid. Lowell also widened his eyes in surprise. Hidden linked quest. Grid hurriedly asked back. Wait. Awaken that zombie and be treated as a benefactor. Hidden linked quest with only that reward? Lowell replied. That means he is a very important NPC. If we do well, we can create an opportunity. But, Lowell felt a bit troubled because it was activated because Grid was completely exchanging pure emotions with the NPC. But it wasn't an ordinary famous NPC. I never thought I would have to face it after a battle of attrition. Lowell blamed himself. It was his fault for not being able to predict. If he wanted to succeed, he needed the strength of Piero and Asmafel. But he couldn't abandon his teammates. Grid could guess Lowell's thoughts and told him. Just leave Piero and Asmafel there. No one would get hurt, so don't blame yourself. Grid put on his mask and smiled reassuringly. I'm different from that idiot. The responsibility of the Premium Goods Club will be mine alone. Maxon felt insulted and angrily hit Grid with water. Don't bring such dirty language into our waters. Grid suffered the full force of that attack and screamed in pain. He took 7,800 damage. He cursed under his breath as he fought him. Damn it. Grid was forced to lie still and endure the continuous attacks of King Maxon. Suffering 5,800 damage. Lowell couldn't take it anymore. So he sneaked up on him from behind. He shouted, "How dare you do this to your lord, Claw of the Earth Dragon? Euphemina, you don't need to ask again, just answer." I know. The giant tree hug. A tree suddenly appeared and strangled him. However, he easily destroyed it with his ultimate move. Grid took the opportunity to use magic arrows to attack Maxon. Next is the use of extreme close. The system notification rang out once more. Critical, dealing 455,000 damage to the target. He reached out his hand to grab Grid, but luckily he quickly dodged it. Grid thought to himself. He took that much damage and still managed to withstand it. That's an insane amount of health. I need to accumulate damage somehow, but the 5 sword combos haven't been activated since the tournament. It was even more infuriating that the king had not cared about state affairs from the beginning. Therefore, 100% of his strength had to be used to defeat him. So Grid immediately decided to summon Randy, and summon the Knight Jude. Lowell didn't quite understand Grid's intentions when he saw him summon Jude. Jude, although his strength had improved a lot, he still couldn't turn the situation around. Grid reassured him, I haven't played all my cards yet. During the tournament, he was only missing 1 spoonful of food, so he couldn't wake up. Now he's full from eating the dark demon. Should I look at his face once and see how many times he burped? Grid summoned the magic sword Iarugd. Summoned the demon sword Iarugd. Grid had to use all his strength in both hands to hold the demon sword. This impudent fellow wanted to be on par with his master at the slightest provocation. He was furious. His power was now too terrifying. Even his own strength could not be controlled. Now it wants to rebel? The golden pattern engraved on the sword glowed and blended with the red body of the sword, creating a strange combination. The huge amount of energy released surprised even Braham. That huge energy was sealed into a metal bar. Even Euphemina had to open her eyes and admire it. So beautiful. Grid thought to himself. An energy that surprised even Braham. After all. Ahead of the sword. The crimson rays of energy coiled up like a cocoon. One of the great powers of Hell Marba has judged. Iarugd is someone who can change the order of the great demons, lower-class demons without magical powers but still on par with the great demons simply through his sword skills. Swordsman, Sword Demon, the strongest sword demon in Hell. The only opponent of the great demon Zepar is the appearance of the devil called by all kinds of nicknames. The newly awakened great demon spoke, it's been 300 years since he felt this atmosphere, it's so sweet. The king looked at the great demon and thought deeply. He had seen that form in ancient books before. Could it be that this was what people commonly called a demon? Furthermore, he had summoned powerful monsters. But they were originally human opponents. Why would he serve that guy? It's amazing. There are so many existences that should be in hell. A human being can control that demon? Even the summoner Grid was scared when he saw it. The power is too terrible. The force is really great. Only then did Grid notice that Jude was naked. What is this? Jude. What is that look? Jude quickly replied. Jude. Finished training. Bathing. I came immediately when the Lord called. Grid thought to himself. He's already level 300. Just like a racehorse. But if he's naked here, he'll die 100% without armor. Since NPCs don't have inventory boxes. Grid said to Jude. Back. I'll lend you my armor. Before he could give the order, Jude had already charged at the great demon he had summoned. Demon. Die. Grid was startled. His face turned pale and he shouted. What was that? The great demon also asked Jude angrily. What is this? That piece of raw meat. How many lives do you think you have? Even heroes fear this body of mine. Grid quickly shouted to stop him. Wait. This is the first knight I treasured. Don't touch him. I erugged. The great demon angrily attacked Jude. Don't tell me what to do. Take 42,250 damage from the target. Grid panicked. Oh my god. He didn't obey his order to stop. Jude. It hurts. Endure it. Die, demon. Moreover, with just one strike, more than half of Jude's health was gone. The attack power of that demon's sword was much stronger than that of a waste. Skill activated. I don't know anything. Grab weapon. Jude quickly flew to the big demon. Then he snatched its sword. The great demon did not hesitate to praise Jude. What a talented piece of meat. Jude thought to himself. It hurts. This is not good. But who are you? Maximum intelligence is 20. Grid tiredly patted Jude's shoulder and instructed. Both of you stop. From now on, anyone who attacks teammates will be punished mercilessly. The sword demon even pretended to cry. Hoo. Punishment is what the strong inflicts on the weak. It's not good to say something without being able to keep it. And it seems like I'm not something you should be concerned about right now. Sure enough, after the great demon finished speaking, King Maxong immediately rushed over and shouted loudly. You dare to speak in front of this emperor. You will pay with your lives. For the crime of looking down on the great mermaid race. Grid could only watch in frustration as he fought with his own arm. Damn you, I erugged. You feed him well and he doesn't show any gratitude. I wonder if I should raise his rank a bit. He doesn't listen to anything. A group of people rushed to beat up that King Maxong. Barbed wire ramparts. Hand of the earth, he ordered angrily. Stop supporting that bastard. I will mercifully execute you one by one. The sword demon suddenly stopped and wondered. The great demon Iarugd held his sword as if practicing. It had been a long time since he had breathed fresh air. These things were taking turns causing trouble. It seemed like it felt angry. So it swung its sword. A supernatural sword. Hitting the King Maxong sent him flying. Grid was both surprised and bewildered by its actions. Such a powerful sword strike without any preparation. Oh, he will help me. It seemed to understand Grid's thoughts and replied. I'm just checking to see if the sword is blunt, so don't be mistaken. The monster felt that he could not fight this foolish battle. No matter how much you weakling, the master, grumbled, you could not change my mind. No spoke to Grid. Master. If you wait any longer, I will eat this guy's soul first, Niang, Memphis. No used soul absorption to take away half of the power of the Water King Maxong. Master's power will increase by 12,511 for 3 seconds due to the transfer. Grid calculated. The absorbed power is 2,500. If magic is taken into account, the minimum intelligence and power should be more than 5,000 points. Grid quickly gave the order. The power had increased tremendously. Randy followed me closely. On the other side, Jude was using his SS-ranked invisible skill to stick his hand in the face of the demon Iarugd and demanded. I need more bath water. Bath? I can finish bathing now. The demon didn't have time to fight back. Oof. This guy. My vision. Grid uses the blacksmith's wrath, blackening, and the killing blow to fight the Water King. Activate title effect. Die in one hit. Critical damage increased by 30%. Activate weak point attack, dealing 4,230,400 bonus damage. Take 3,500,100 damage. Take 16,190,000 damage. Take 1,590,400 damage. Grid deals damage while calculating. 2 critical hits plus the power buff. The damage is almost 100,000. Lowell from behind reminded him. Excessive damage is dangerous. If he dies, the mission will fail. But Grid didn't think so. No way. The Iarug ability displayed in the information window and the attack power of the supernatural sword were both within their limits. Therefore, he couldn't be killed instantly. He was hit by the consecutive attacks but only lost 30% of his health. What a rare king, different from the usual famous NPC. The Water King quickly turned his attack on Randy. He was a king with overwhelming health and attack power compared to all other characters. The Water King said with tears in his eyes, "Those damn people outside, you were the ones who killed Ohong." "No. I was the one who killed her." Grid wondered after hearing that. What was he talking about? There would be no help from Iarug anyway. He had to kill this monster before his strength returned to normal after the buff. Outside, the battle was still fierce. Several Blood Clansmen were closing in, intending to kill the Water Clan man. Before they made their move, they were still in a playful mood. Ha ha ha. What a unique outfit. They must have a beautiful heart. The beggars below are enough for us to play hard to get. Let's take some really valuable things. Luckily, Faker appeared in time. Using his twin short swords, he wiped out the nearby Blood Clansman. The Water Clan man called out his name in surprise. "Faker. Are you with that warrior?" Faker replied. "If you are a royal, then go to the king. Our leader is meeting your king. Come and help him." The Waterman calmly said to Faker. Now sadness consumes time and mind. I don't know about your situation, but today's disaster happened because of the king's sadness. For those who cannot escape, there is no solution but to wait. It is not something that outsiders can solve. Faker turned back and continued. I know this is a world isolated from the outside. I still have a general grasp of the situation from information shared by the community. You should try. What if there is a chance to change and reset your standards of perception towards the outside world? Because our leader is different now. The water that the Water King created destroyed everything. Even Noah was exhausted, lying on the rock with his tongue out. Euphemina was speechless. No, and Randy, go back too. It's unbearable. Grid, get out of the way. Grid was beaten by him and could not fight back. He thought to himself, his power was too overwhelming. It wasn't just because his power had returned to its original state, although he didn't know what it was, but the endless anger was directed towards the outsiders. Or rather, himself. The Water King shouted angrily, "You even want the chains that hold my sins? Get your dirty hands off the mermaids. You damned beasts. What the hell have we gotten ourselves into?" Suddenly someone ran over. He easily broke the power of Maxon's move. It turned out to be his son. Prince Peong spoke up to stop his father. Please calm down a little. Father, Euphemia said in a low voice. Prince Peong. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and scolded her. How dare she rush an outsider into the palace? I knew she would do something so risky. Euphemia. The king of the water tribe questioned his son. He was the one who coveted the treasure of the mermaid tribe. You should know how to protect the kingdom, why are you stopping me? Peong explained. I know that. But today their contribution to our tribe is not small. Please listen to me now. Grid said from behind. We tried our best to help, but we were beaten up all this time. Is this how they show their gratitude? Prince Peong turned around and asked. You are the leader, right? Do you think we will show our gratitude for helping us? The interference of someone who knows nothing about royal secrets is like the violence of the mermaid clan now. The Mermaid King shouted loudly. Peong, watch your words. The secret cannot be leaked out. Peong replied, they have gone too far. We need to clarify the situation to prevent future mistakes. Father. He began to tell the story. My dear mother passed away after giving birth to her youngest child Ohong. This sadness was hard to forget. In a place that had no contact with the outside world like the mermaid tribe, the birth of a new creature was the happiest news. She was a warm and intelligent child that melted the heart of a father who had lost his wife. And a child that always made everyone laugh in happiness. However, the most painful thing was that she was born extremely sickly and her remaining life was limited. The Royal Library was a fun playground for someone like Ohong who couldn't run and play. Among them, she enjoyed reading the books that were occasionally sent from the mainland. My father wanted Ohong to read books freely, so he ordered everyone to collect books from the outside world, just like his father's love for Ohong. The search range was extended from deep in the water to the shore. One time, the book collecting group encountered humans on land who were exploring the coast. We did not let our guard down, but we were unable to prevent the leaking of information about the mermaids. And they made us an offer. They said they had the technology that could cure Ohong and they wanted to help us, so they said they would take Ohong back to their kingdom for treatment. We also thought that this was the best way to save her, so the fear of the outside world was not an issue at that time. Even though what he was holding in his hand was an extremely sharp knife, extremely dangerous to the mermaid tribe, the urgency that father had for Ohong's future was even greater than that. Grid turned to Euphemina and asked, "Did you know about this too?" Euphemina replied, "No, this is the first time I've heard of it. I was allowed to stay, but the princes avoided me, so it was difficult to contact me." Soon after, father sent Princess Ohong away with the strongest royal guard. We were worried about the long journey ahead, but Ohong was eager to see the world she had only seen in books. Everyone thought there was no better choice. They said that the other party was a subordinate of the soon-to-be empress of the most powerful country in the north. We believe that with the abilities of such powerful people, they can cure Ohong's illness. Grid thought to himself, the strongest power was in the north of Siren. Saharan. It was the Princess Mary. The mermaids lacked information and had no choice but to trust their offer. Maxong was furious, trembling and clenching his fists. "Euphemina, I opened the door for you despite the prince's objections. Because before Ohong was born, there was a precedent of a mage who had helped the common people of the mermaid tribe for a long time." Euphemina heard this and immediately thought of Mumud. "I know that she also helped many people during her time here. One of the biggest reasons I decided to keep you here is because the outside world is so bright. To prevent wild beasts from sneaking in and harming the mermaids. I need your information from the outside." Lowell frowned and said, "The invaders said so. This invasion is a heart hunt for the royal concubine. A new path to the heart of the water tribe is opened. Ohong returned with countless scars on his body. With a body colder than the deepest sea. Could it be?" Euphemina's eyes were filled with tears. "With the body of Princess Ohong. The mermaids were usually impeccably defended. But we were too late. I tried to forget that terrible time, but it still lingers. To punish myself for my sins. Sins worse than throwing my child to the beasts. I am here to repent." The sword demon Ayarug suddenly said to him, "You better get ready. This place is not good." As soon as he finished speaking, King Maxong's grief turned into hatred. He screamed madly. Even though he was so mad, there were still people who calmly wanted to steal the mermaid's treasure. "I'll keep an eye out to see how far you can go." Waves of clear blue water gradually rose and began to engulf everything one by one. The waves, big and small, with extremely strong pressure, also followed. And toppled the very sturdy cement pillars. Despite his son's screams of pleading and protesting, Maxong continued to use the power of the water to destroy everything. He even shouted angrily, "They are all beasts who covet our clan's treasure. I know it was very difficult to close the door of our race to humanity, but now we still let them in." Lowell stepped aside. He hastily explained that it was all Queen Mary's fault. She had discovered the secret of magic power from the Water Princess. It seemed that she had planned to use that power after taking power. But Maxong was still very stubborn and said, "I will not let those beasts do that. This land is Ohong's only happy memory." Grid and Paeyong both raised their arms to block the debris from flying into their eyes. Grid took a slight step back and gritted his teeth as he asked. He didn't even care about the thugs who came to harass his clansmen. "Why are you only messing with us?" Paeyong quickly explained that the memories of Ohong that had been buried for so many years had now revived the old grudge. Hearing this answer, Grid felt even more wronged. It was obvious that Paeyong had brought up the matter of the princess without permission. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. Then he should have destroyed those Saharan bastards? Why did he take it out on us? Paeyong calmly replied, "We can't recklessly push these people who are attached to the deep sea to the mainland just to avenge past mistakes." Paeyong's mind gradually flashed back to the image of the war years ago. He frowned and said, he had been lying down the whole time the Blood Moon clan attacked the mermaids. Paeyong sighed and said, his spirit was broken by the loss of Ohong, so just sitting still was very difficult. Paeyong turned his head to look straight into Maxong's eyes and continued, even if the door to this world was closed to prevent damage, his beloved Ohong would no longer be in this place. He has also been immersed in the rigors of defending this stronghold for many years. It was originally very touching and also worth sympathizing with the heart and thoughts of a father, who always had to shoulder heavy responsibilities for family and work. But Grid found it quite funny. He chuckled and said, everyone sympathized, so no matter how many years this situation lasted, it would be fine. Come to your senses, even if you decided to close the door and not communicate with the outside world, it would be like a swarm of bees here now. Thinking of the evil people who were always waiting outside the ocean and were plotting to attack, he said angrily, the group of people you guys call threats outside would only increase and the threat to the mermaid tribe would also grow greater. They will be there waiting for the right moment, and when the outside forces arrive, they will launch a massive attack on this place. Although Grid knew that Payon would not want to hear what he was about to say next, the truth was the truth, and there was no way to hide it. So he said it frankly, all a king like him protected was the throne. If he couldn't even protect his own people, then what was the point of talking about it? Instead of arguing, think of ways to wake him up. Seeing Payon begin to bow his head in silence and sink into his own thoughts, Grid didn't urge him to do anything, he had already advised. And he also wanted to let Payon decide for himself what was best to do, so he took a step forward. He held the hilt of his sword tightly in his hand, his whole body ready to fight. He looked at Maxong and smiled. Hey Maxong, I have roughly understood the current situation. Do you hear screaming outside? They are also his people whose lives he must protect. Grid couldn't help but shout in anger, their lives were like his daughters. If he didn't have the ability to protect them all, then get off that chair and go to sleep. These sincere words were like a reminder and advice to Maxong. But for someone who was inherently stubborn and always thought he was better than others, of course he would not accept and listen. Maxong not only did not know how to say thank you, but also cursed Grid as a bastard. It was as if he had lost his mind. He shouted a warning, don't mention Ohong in front of me, and immediately launched a move towards Grid. Because he hadn't expected Maxong to be so crazy, he didn't have time to dodge, and this move caused him to spit out a large mouthful of blood and be sent flying a distance away. Grid's back was hit hard against the wall. At that moment, he felt like his backbones were being crushed. He grimaced in pain and thought to himself, I took the opportunity to provoke him, and yet his attack power increased so much? If this happened after putting all my strength into blackening. As Maxong was about to unleash another attack to finish Grid off, Payon suddenly appeared and swooped down from above with a spear in his hand. He used that very spear to counter his father's water control power. Maxong never expected that his son was helping his opponent. After Payon's timely rescue of Grid, he immediately frowned and questioned him. What the hell are you doing, Payon? Are you on the side of those guys from the outside world? Payon's hand still gripped the spear shaft tightly. His expression was unusually calm. He stood opposite and looked straight at his father and replied. The mermaid tribe's business here is no longer the same. And I also do everything for the people. But because of the royal family's mistake, too many of our people have died today. Seeing Maxong's slightly absent-minded expression, Payon continued as if he had a glimmer of hope. When the convection currents stop, the ocean will die, father. We need heat to defeat the icy ocean. Payon seriously told his father that he hoped that the mermaid tribe would rise up again and move forward. And he wanted to put his hope in the warmth that this person would bring. After Payon's heartfelt confession, the surrounding atmosphere suddenly became strangely quiet. After a few suffocating minutes passed, Maxong's hoarse and cold voice rang out. How stupid Payon. The people who had taken Ohong away had been very kind at first. He raised his head, looked at the two of them with a mocking gaze and continued, greed is directly proportional to my life. And that same guy was the one who expressed his intention to take the throne from me a while ago. Maxong started to get angry again and gritted his teeth and said, no matter how greedy I am, my life is still something I value as much as millions of gold coins. How dare you use other people's lives to disturb me? Saying that, Maxong immediately raised his hand up, using the power of water to move those large, heavy rocks down, despite Payong's repeated calls for the word father. Maxong still stubbornly said, everything in the outside world was evil and not worth mentioning. Up until now, both Grid and Payong had to accept the fact that Maxong was truly beyond help. There was no other way to prevent his teammate from being emotionally shaken by father-son love and unable to fight. Grid stood up and said, I almost understand, get out of the way, is it possible to start a new beginning when there are still many bandits out there that need to be defeated? Speaking of which, he used his understanding and speculations about Maxong to say that, because he was trapped in the small room, he couldn't stop blaming himself and getting angry. He just let them accumulate and as a result, he became depressed and sick. Instead of waiting, I had to make him release his long-standing anger first. Then Grid rushed forward with his sword in hand and said, anyway, I have a general idea of why you became like this. So now I also want to help you wake up like before. It seems like you are currently haunted by a troublemaker like me. So let's work together to solve this. His face was filled with delight. The corners of his mouth also curled up into a meaningful smile. He laughed and said, today I will be your punching bag. So go ahead and vent all your anger on me. After this war, you will have to change. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly rushed towards Maxong and swung his sword to start fighting him. He calculated as he fought. His health was now around 30%, still quite a lot. But thanks to that, most of his attacks were effective. This could also be considered the last chance for Grid to move forward and to use the remaining time most reasonably. He needed a sword with fast attack speed. Seeing that Grid had decided to fight Maxon to the death, Lal and Euphemina understood his intentions. They could no longer just stand by and watch. And so, the two of them rushed forward to support Grid from behind. In order to avoid a few of Maxon's attacks, Grid used the move, the 7 ideal long swords. And he himself did not expect that one day he would use the spare swords when crafting the extreme sword. And this was also a good opportunity for him to act. Thinking that, Grid immediately controlled the invisible swords and slashed at Maxon continuously. He saw him put his 2 hands up in front of him and scream in pain. Then he said happily, he should have moved faster, he just woke up and was beaten, so he was wide awake. Needless to say, Maxon was furious. He quickly regained his composure and threw a large wave of water at him. Seeing Grid being thrown away, he cursed, "Keep talking, you beast." Since Maxon had successfully counterattacked, Grid had no choice but to change his strategy. He calculated in his mind that since he had 20% remaining health due to the limited fragment attacks, it would be best to prepare his longsword for a decisive attack. In such a tense and boiling moment, there was still a person sitting there with his legs crossed, arms folded in front of his chest, looking very leisurely, laughing a few times and saying, no matter how hard he tries, he still has a lot of blood left. A big slash like that isn't enough. Are you going to kill him by scratching his skin to make him itch? Hearing Iarug's sarcastic words, Grid only gave him a disdainful glance, and continued to advance while speaking resentfully, not being able to help and yet sitting there lecturing. How infuriating. He thought to himself that Maxon's defense had already weakened, so he had to focus on his strongest attacks now. Thinking of this, he immediately shouted loudly, "You can't escape, take this," and then used the 3-hit combo move. With this new move, Maxon couldn't help but be terrified and thought to himself, this is the sharpest sword he has ever seen. But he was not shaken and surrendered. Maxon clenched his hands into fists and shouted, "Don't underestimate my mermaid clan." Water balls of various shapes and sizes were shot out in succession. And all of them were aimed straight at Grid. At that moment, Grid was still holding his sword and rushing over, but because it was so sudden, he was unable to dodge in time. And then, of course, a series of system notifications rang out in his ears, saying, "You have taken damage from reflection. You have taken 918,555 damage. You have taken 920,330 damage. You have taken 899,100 damage. You have taken 905,700 damage. You have taken 920,650 damage. You have taken 820,650 damage. You have taken 740,650 damage. You have taken 940,650 damage. You have taken 940,650 damage." Along with that was Grid's resounding scream of pain as he heard the system announce that the one who becomes a legend will not die easily, his health will be reduced to the minimum and he can be immune to all damage for 5 seconds. For a moment, he was stunned for a few minutes and then clenched his teeth and thought, what? Reflecting the damage of my attack. What the hell kind of skill is this? At the same time, Jude was standing below, and used his 5 fists to violently break each water ball one by one. He also loudly shouted a sentence, "Jude, save the Lord." When the blackening duration was only 4 seconds left, Grid still firmly told himself, it's not over yet, there's still blackening and 5 seconds of invincibility. He thought to himself as he swung his sword at Maxon, I'm in an immortal state now. I can focus all my time on attacking without worrying about defense. I can deal as much damage as possible to reduce his health and heal him with holy armor and Duran's ring as soon as the immortality ends. Hearing the system announce that the blackening duration had ended and the immortality duration had 1 second left, Grid couldn't help but feel a little nervous. It's still not enough, I've used all my attacks but there's still 15% left. It could be said that he had used all his means. The important thing now was whether he could survive the remaining time with this potion. But first, to be careful, Grid still decided to retreat and find a way to buy more time. Suddenly at this moment, the stupid muscle guy Jude appeared again and rushed to block him. He used his fist and told Jude to help the Lord. There was no help, only destruction. Maxon took advantage of Grid's distraction to laugh and say, I'm surprised you didn't die. But why are you so absent-minded? Grid also suddenly realized a problem, Jude had been blown away. At the same time, the immortality period had ended. Grid thought helplessly that if he died, the mission would be over. His half-demon half-human face was currently covered in bruises and scratches, but it didn't seem to affect his spirit. He was also worriedly thinking, why did you jump in with your body naked like that, Jude? You brought this on yourself, don't blame me. Honestly, when thinking about it, Grid was still very troubled by having to make a difficult choice. And that choice would likely cause serious harm to his teammate. Even so, he clenched his teeth and shouted 4 words, "This idiot," then raised his leg and kicked Jude hard in the back. Seeing this scene, a thought suddenly appeared in Maxong's mind. Even though he could have avoided it, he still rushed into the target to save that guy. How could he make that decision? Grid looked up at him and shouted angrily, "I will push you to hell, go there and sleep while you damn fish head." But as soon as he finished speaking, a large wave of water came from nowhere and poured on him.